Today, I am going to be taking on the challenge of all challenges. Let's say someone walked up to you and said, I will give you $1,000,000 if you can convince me that the New England Patriots this year are going to the Super Bowl. If you can convince me that the Minnesota Vikings are going to the Super Bowl this year. If you can convince me that the Tennessee Titans are going to the Super Bowl this year. Today, I'm going to try to make a case for all 32 teams in the NFL to go to the Super Bowl. Let's do it. Starting in the NFC East with the Dallas Cowboys. This is a tough one to start with because I am a Cowboy hater. I am not ashamed of it, but here goes. If I were going to make a case for the Cowboys, I would say that Dak Prescott is a good quarterback. He puts up the numbers in the regular season. He just struggles in the postseason. But there's more pressure this time because he's running out of time. He's getting older. He's got more years behind him than in front of him. So if Dak's ever going to do it, he's got to do it now, and he knows that, and so he's going to come out more determined than ever before. He's also got CeeDee Lamb, who is one of the best wide receivers in football. They paid him big money. He's ready to go. Defensively, you got Micah Parsons. You've got Trayvon Diggs. You've got different studs all over that defense, and the Cowboys are being glossed over not only for the Eagles, but some people talk about the Washington Commanders even beating them out in the NFC East. That's going to wake up an underdog mentality in the Cowboys, which is something we don't usually see from them, and that is going to hoist the Cowboys to the Super Bowl. Next, we have the Washington Commanders, and this is what I'm going to say. If I had to convince you that the Commanders are going to the Super Bowl this year, I would say Jaden Daniels is the next Lamar Jackson. This dude is a dual threat quarterback. We saw some of it in the preseason. The way he is able to throw the ball downfield, very impressive. They've got a great young receiver in Terry McLaurin, and defensively, they've got a head coach in Dan Quinn that did a phenomenal job with the Dallas defense when he was there, and lest we forget, Dan Quinn has head coached a team to the Super Bowl before, and they were up 28-3 in that Super Bowl before Tom Brady did Tom Brady-esque things. Dan Quinn knows what it takes to get to the Super Bowl. Jaden Daniels is the next Lamar Jackson. They got young talent on offense, and Dan Quinn's going to get the most out of that defense, and that is why the Washington Commanders are going to go to the Super Bowl this year. Philadelphia Eagles. This isn't even a hard one because a lot of people think that the Eagles have a good shot of going to the Super Bowl anyway. They were just there 2 years ago. Listen, they collapsed last year. Everything was going their way, and then the snowball started rolling downhill, and they couldn't stop it. They have got elite talent all over this offense with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley's there. Jalen Hurts is going to return to form that we saw him in 2 years ago. He's not going to keep playing the way that he played the second half of last season. Although Nick Sirianni is an overrated coach, in my opinion, there is so much talent on this team on both sides of the ball. Their offensive line is really solid and reliable. Defensively, they got dudes all over the field. They got dudes everywhere. Their GM has brought in everybody that could possibly contribute to this team getting to a Super Bowl. They were just there 2 years ago. The NFC feels wide open. The Philadelphia Eagles got more than enough talent to get back to the Super Bowl this year. Last but not least in the NFC East, the New York Giants. Oh, Lord help me. The New York Giants, yes, they have a problem at quarterback with Daniel Jones, but let me tell you what's going to turn it around. What's going to turn it around is Malik Neighbors, who is a top 10 draft pick. Daniel Jones has not had a proper wide receiver one since he got there. And Malik Neighbors is going to be the guy to help turn Daniel Jones into Brock Purdy. He is going to be the guy to help Daniel Jones be better than anybody thought. And listen to this, Brian Daboll just had this team 2 years ago in the playoffs. They outperformed everybody's expectations 2 years ago. There were a lot of people who thought Daniel Jones was more than adequate 2 years ago because Brian Daboll did such a good job. People were talking about him being coach of the year that year. So I think Brian Daboll's a good coach. I think that the Giants are going to come in there with, again, underdog mentality, and I think Daniel Jones is going to have something to prove with a proper wide receiver one. The Giants are young. They've got some no-name guys, but you know who else had a lot of no-name guys back in the day? The Patriots. They had a lot of no-name guys back when Brady was there. Nobody was really high on Julian Edelman or Danny Amendola, but they made it work every single year, and that's why this year the Giants, led by Malik Neighbors are going to go, and they're going to have something to prove because they lost Saquon Barkley. Everybody thinks that's going to doom them, but it's not going to doom them. The Giants, Super Bowl, baby. We're now going to go to the AFC East, and let me tell you why the New York Jets are going to make the Super Bowl, because they got Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, one of the best of all time. This dude is coming off of that injury. He's older. I told you Dak Prescott's running out of time. Aaron Rodgers is absolutely running out of time. He's got one Super Bowl under his belt, and a lot of people feel like he should have more. So Aaron Rodgers is going to come out here with Garrett Wilson. We know the Jets' defense, even last year when they didn't have Aaron Rodgers, their defense was still solid. They're going to still have that solid defense, and then they're going to have Aaron Rodgers in there, and they're going to be able to have the season that they hoped to have last year, this year, and the Jets, because Aaron Rodgers, he knows how to do this. He knows how to get there. RELAX. He knows how to get to the playoffs, and he knows what it takes to get to the Super Bowl and win it. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to reinvigorate this Jets team. And that one guy right there, along with the young talent like Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall, they are going to cruise to the Super Bowl. Now we go to the Miami Dolphins. Now, I literally actually have the Dolphins winning this division. The reason that the Miami Dolphins are going to go to the Super Bowl this year, because I know things didn't end the way they wanted to last year, but have we forgotten that at one point last season, the Miami Dolphins put up over 70 points in a game? They put up over 70. I didn't even think that was possible. But listen, the Dolphins did it last year. All they got to do is figure out how to win a couple of games in weather that is not exactly perfect Miami weather. I think the Dolphins are going to be motivated more than ever to get the number 1 seed in the AFC, because if they do, they don't have to travel in the playoffs. Everybody comes to them in warm Miami, Florida, and I think they're going to do it. I think they are going to get the number 1 seed in the AFC, and they're going to say, hey, Kansas City, Baltimore, Cincinnati, you got to come here in the warmth and play us. Tua Tagovailoa, people are kind of iffy on him, but he got paid. Tua is driven. I live in the state of Alabama. I know all about Tua and how driven he is. Tyreek Hill, obviously, what a freak. Defensively, Miami, they got a ton of guys all over the field. We already know they had a Ramsey. He got trucked by Will Levis, but we're not talking about that right now. They got all these dudes on defense that are ready to go. Mike McDaniel, one of the great young head coaches in the NFL. The Miami Dolphins going to the Super Bowl this year, and that's why. Now let's make a case for the Buffalo Bills to go to the Super Bowl, and I only need 2 words to convince you that the Bills are going to the Super Bowl this year, and it is Josh Allen, one of the best in the game. I know they lost Diggs. I know they lost Gabe Davis. But let me tell you something. Josh Allen, he is in that upper echelon of quarterbacks. This dude is he's going to have to pick up the slack from those guys leaving. You don't worry about Josh Allen. He's going to get those turnovers under control. He's not going to keep turning the ball over. He's going to come out there, not to mention defensively, you got guys like Von Miller. We all have respect for him. You got the Buffalo Bills coming out. You got their starting running back, James Cook, who had a tremendous year last year. He's coming back this year. You got a rookie, Keon Coleman, that I think is going to be a steal for them in the second round. And Josh Allen's one of those guys, you put anybody out there with him, and he's going to get them to where they need to go. The Buffalo Bills are going to the Super Bowl this year, and it's because of Josh Allen. Yes, there are holes on offense elsewhere, but they got good tight ends, and Josh Allen covers a multitude of sins. The New England Patriots. Let me tell you why the New England Patriots are going to go to the Super Bowl this year. I'll tell you why. Because the Patriots going to the Super Bowl, it's in their DNA. It's in Robert Kraft's DNA to find a way to get the Patriots to the Super Bowl. It's in Robert Kraft's DNA to bring in a bunch of nobodies that nobody cares about and that nobody even expects to do anything. And at the end of the day, they're hoisting up the Lombardi Trophy. And I hear you out there, you're saying, Brady's gone, Belichick's gone, Gronk's gone, those great defenses they used to have. Listen, New England Patriots, baby. They just know how to do it. They know how to get to the Super Bowl. How many times have we seen them? Robert Kraft is going to have them in position. Drake May is going to be better than anybody expected him to be. Jacoby Brissett, he's going to start the season. It's going to be a little iffy. But then when Drake May takes over, there's going to be a spark lit under this team. Ramondre Stevenson. Yes. He's going to come in and they're going to start lighting the league on fire. And you're going to sit here at the end of this year and you're going to say, man, it's the Patriots again. We thought it was Brady. We thought it was Belichick. Turns out it was just Robert Kraft. And how great of an owner he is. He did it. It was him all along. Let's go back to the NFC with the NFC West. The LA Rams. Let me tell you why the Rams are going to the Super Bowl. The Rams are going to the Super Bowl because they are flying under the radar. When you talk about the NFC, everybody talks about the 49ers. Everybody talks about the Eagles and the Cowboys and the Packers and the Lions this year, and that's fine. But you better not forget about the Rams. The Rams who just won the dang Super Bowl a few years ago. They just won the Super Bowl a few years ago. They still got the quarterback they had then. They still got Cooper Kupp, that great wide receiver. They brought in Puka Nacua. They got great weapons on offense. And then on defense, yes, they lost Aaron Donald, but the Rams always got that stingy defense. Sean McVay, one of the great young head coaches in this league, he's going to have the Rams ready to go. He's going to have the Rams. They got to the playoffs last year, and they almost spoiled Detroit's season in the dang wild card round. The Rams are going to get in. Everybody's going to be talking about these other teams. The Rams are going to get in as a wild card team, and they're going to go on a run, and they're going to beat all of your favorites. And at the end of the year, just like a few years ago, people are going to be saying the Rams? With the Rams? Yes, the Rams have the talent to do it, and they have the coach to do it. LA Rams, and my dog agrees, LA Rams, Super Bowl bound. Now let me talk to you about the Seattle Seahawks. Let me tell you why the Seahawks are going to the Super Bowl this year. They're going to the Super Bowl because you wrote Geno off and he ain't right back. Geno, if anybody's got a chip on his shoulder, it's Geno Smith. I think Mike McDonald, one of the most underrated coaching hires of the offseason. Mike McDonald legitimately is going to have this team feisty, gritty. The Seahawks coming in with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, a couple of veterans, and one of the more underrated running backs in the league in Kenneth Walker. This dude can run the ball, and Mike McDonald, he's going to bring in a winning culture. He's been in Baltimore where they've had that winning culture, and now he's going to bring it to Seattle. He's going to have them playing well defensively. You know Mike McDonald is going to have with Kayvon Wallace and those guys, he's going to have that defense playing well because that's what Mike McDonald does. And then on offense, everybody's going to write Geno off. He ain't going to write back. And even if Geno ain't the answer, they got a backup in Sam Howell. Sam Howell, who has starting experience and can come in there and you can place him in there. And with guys like Metcalf and guys like Tyler Lockett, he can make it work. He can get Seattle to where they need to go. Even in this tough division, the Seahawks are the type of team that will sneak in there at the end of the day and go on a run in the playoffs all the way to the Super Bowl. That's why Seattle's going to be there. Francisco 49ers. Do I even have to convince you that the 49ers are going to the Super Bowl? My goodness gracious. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Trent Williams, Brock Purdy, who has proven that he can do this thing. Defensively, they got one of the best defenses in the league, one of the great head coaches in the league. The 49ers are always right there at the end, and you already know the 49ers got the talent, they got the coaching, they got everything they need. They don't have one hole on that team. They don't have one weakness on that team. The San Francisco 49ers are going to cruise to the Super Bowl. Final team in the NFC West is the Arizona Cardinals. Let me tell you why the Cardinals are going to the Super Bowl. The Cardinals, we don't know a whole lot about their head coach. All right, we don't know a whole lot about him. He was there last year. You know, they had injuries, they had things like that, and he wasn't able to, we just don't know much about him. But Kyler Murray's coming back. I think Kyler Murray, one of the more underrated guys, one of the more sneaky quarterbacks in the league. We've seen this dude play well, and if he can stay healthy, I think Kyler Murray can light the field up with his legs. He can light it up with his arms. I think Arizona, they had a sneaky good little off season. They've got some veteran players. They've got some young guys on both sides of the ball. And Arizona, I'm telling you, people forget. This Kyler Murray, before he got hurt, this dude, he's like Pac-Man running around the field. And if he gets going, nobody can catch him. Nobody can catch him. And he's got the arm strength. This one's the hardest one so far, I think. But Arizona, that's why they're going to the Super Bowl. AFC West, let me tell you why the LA Chargers are going to the Super Bowl. The LA Chargers are going to the Super Bowl because they've got one of the great young quarterbacks in the league in Justin Herbert. And They have Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh coming in to coach this team. Jim Harbaugh, who when he was coaching the San Francisco 49ers, he had them consistently in the NFC Championship game, in the Super Bowl. This dude always had the 49ers in the mix at the end of the year. He always had them there, even with guys like Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick at quarterback. Jim Harbaugh had this team. He's a winner. He went to Michigan at the college level. He won. When he was in San Francisco, he won. You mix Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert, they're going to run, they're going to be physical, but they're going to get the most out of those weapons on the outside, just like they used to do with Michael Crabtree and Vernon Davis and all those guys. And I think Jim Harbaugh is going to have this defense for the Chargers being the strength of the team. Harbaugh and Herbert, that combination is good enough to get the Chargers to the Super Bowl. The Las Vegas Raiders. I'll tell you why the Raiders are going to the Super Bowl. They're going to the Super Bowl because of Minshew magic. Minshew magic. Just something about Gardner Minshew. He finds a way. And he's going to have guys on this team like Davante Adams, who is still one of the best wide receivers in the league. I don't care what you say. They drafted Brock Bowers in the first round of the draft. I love that pick. Antonio Pierce, the new head coach. He's a player's coach. These players are going to want to play for him, and he's going to have that defense playing like studs. He is going to bring that defense to life. We already know they got Crosby. They got some studs on that defense, and Minshew is just going to be able to step in. He's going to be able to. He almost got Indianapolis to the playoffs last year. So what do you think he's going to be able to do with Davante Adams and Brock Bowers and Antonio Pierce coaching that defense? You know what he's going to do. He's going to have the Raiders returning to their former glory in the Super Bowl. Kansas City Chiefs. Do I even have to waste my time convincing you that the Kansas City Chiefs can get or will get to the Super Bowl? It doesn't matter who they line up at wide receiver. It doesn't matter who they line up at running back or offensive line or anywhere else. As long as Patrick Mahomes is taking the snaps for this team, and especially as long as Travis Kelce's out there and Andy Reid's on the sideline, the Chiefs will be the favorite to get to the Super Bowl. I got no reason to believe, as long as he's taking snaps, that they won't three-peat. Last but not least, in the AFC West, it's the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos are going to go to the Super Bowl because Sean Payton knows how to get there. Sean Payton has won a Super Bowl. Everybody likes to hate on Sean Payton. Hate on Payton. That's what everybody likes to do. Hate on Payton. Everybody likes to do that. But you know what? Sean Payton, he knows what it takes. He knows what it takes to get there. He knows what it takes to have a defense playing Super Bowl caliber football. And Bo Nix, based on what we saw from him in the preseason, this dude is going to come in there. These dudes, Denver, they don't have a lot of popular names. They don't have a lot of fancy names on their team, a lot of names you would recognize, but Bo Nix, this guy is special. This guy left Auburn, went to Oregon, resurrected his career in college, and now he's coming to Denver, drafted 12th overall. You need this guy to be good, and this guy's going to come in there. Bo Nix is the future of this league. Bo Nix is the future of this league. He's going to come in. He's going to light the city of Denver ablaze, and he is going to have the Broncos in the Super Bowl. They just won the Super Bowl within the last 10 years. There's not a whole lot that's changed since then. Bo Nix, future of the league. When this year is over, he's going to have the Denver Broncos hoisting up the Lombardi Trophy, and you're all going to be sitting there saying Bo Nix is the greatest to ever do it. NFC North, let me tell you about the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers, they're going to win the Super Bowl because it's the Packers. They're always in the mix there at the end, and now they've got their guy in Jordan Love. How lucky are they to have Brett Favre, then Aaron Rodgers, now Jordan Love. He's going to carry over that momentum. They've got young talent all over this field. They have got 3 dudes who could be their wide receiver 1 right now, not to mention Josh Jacobs coming in to play running back for him, not to mention Matt LaFleur, one of the great young head coaches in this league. He's a former offensive coordinator from my Tennessee Titans, and he's doing a great job there. He's got Jordan Love ready to go. He's got Malik Willis playing backup for him. Green Bay, I don't even have to convince you. Green Bay, they're going to be right there, and they're going to get to the Super Bowl. They're going to knock off Detroit, San Francisco, whoever you put in front of them. They almost did it last year. They very nearly almost got to the NFC title game last year. So what's the next step? Get to the Super Bowl. That's where the Packers are headed. Now the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears are going to go to the Super Bowl because, look at the talent on offense. Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, DeAndre Swift, You've got the next great hope for the city of Chicago in Caleb Williams coming in. Look at their defensive front. They got some dogs on defense to play that old school Chicago Bears defense. And then on offense, they've got Caleb Williams, who was making all sorts of plays in the preseason. They got the weapons to start. I mean, because he's a rookie. He's going to have some growing pains, but he's got such great weapons. DeAndre Swift, he's got these weapons around him that can elevate him. And Caleb Williams is going to literally, he's going to live up to the hype. He's going to live up to the hype. Eberflus is going to save his job, because, you know, people a little out on him, but he's going to win people over. He's going to feel the pressure. And nobody in this division has a trio at wide receiver like the Chicago Bears do to bail their rookie quarterback out. He's a number 1 pick overall. The Bears have just been waiting to return to their former glory. They had the double doink years ago. That's the last time they were in the playoffs, but Caleb Williams is going to take them back there. And this young team, except for Keenan Allen, is going to go on a run, and they're going to the Super Bowl. How about the Detroit Lions? I mean, they were knocking on the door of the Super Bowl just last year. The Detroit Lions are going to the Super Bowl because Jared Goff has resurrected his career. They got talent all over the field. David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs as a 1-2 punch at running back. You've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, one of the great young wide receivers in the league. You've got Jameson Williams, who people are sleeping on because he's dealt with injuries, but he's going to come in. Dan Campbell, an absolute madman. And defensively, all over the field. I mean, my goodness, Aiden Hutchinson on that defensive line. Are you kidding me? Good luck blocking him. The Detroit Lions, they are stacked at nearly every position. That's why the Lions are going to the Super Bowl. They got to the NFC title game last year. This year they're going to the Super Bowl. Last but not least, in the NFC North, it's the Minnesota Vikings. Let me tell you why the Vikings are going to go to the Super Bowl, because they've got the best wide receiver in football in Justin Jefferson. And when Jordan Addison gets healthy, they've got a great 1-2 punch at wide receiver. How do you bail out a guy like Sam Darnold, who a lot of people think can't get him anywhere? You bail him out by having the best wide receiver in football at a great 1-2 punch at the wide receiver position. Not to mention their head coach that just had them in the playoffs 2 years ago, similar to what I said about Brian DeBoll earlier. He had him in the playoffs a couple of years ago, and I believe they were hosting a playoff game. I mean, these Vikings, they were just knocking on the door a couple of years ago. They were Super Bowl contenders a couple of years ago. You mean to tell me that head coach with Justin Jefferson, the madman, can't return them to where they once were just a couple of years ago? The Vikings, I'm telling you, the Lions are too obvious. The Bears, they got all that talent. No. Wait till the Vikings come to town. The Packers, Jordan Love. Let me tell you something. Sam Darnold has the recipe to be the next Nick Foles. Let me tell you something. You tell me Sam Darnold can't win Minnesota a Super Bowl? You tell me Sam Darnold can't win Minnesota a Super Bowl when Nick Foles won a dang Super Bowl for Philadelphia? No, I ain't going to hear that. Sam Darnold can do it if Nick Foles did it. And Minnesota, that same year, who was playing quarterback for Minnesota in that playoff game? Case Keenum. Case Keenum almost got Minnesota to the Super Bowl. You telling me Sam Darnold can't do it? With Justin Jefferson, he's going to do it. Minnesota's going to the Super Bowl. Let's go to the AFC North with the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals are going to the Super Bowl because of freaking Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. They got talent everywhere. Not to mention Zach Taylor. Again, one of the great young head coaches in this league. Defensively, that front they have, feasting on offensive lines everywhere and quarterbacks everywhere. They were just in the Super Bowl a few years ago. The offensive line for Cincinnati, they're going to do a better job of protecting Joe Burrow. This is their last stand because this is likely T. Higgins' last year. So this is the last stand for this version of the Bengals, and they know it. So they're going to go out and they're going to take this thing all the way to the Super Bowl because they have to. If they don't do it now, then when? The Pittsburgh Steelers are going to go to the Super Bowl because Mike Tomlin just knows how to have this team there. He knows. He knows how to take a team that you don't expect. You don't expect, and having them right there at the end. He's done it before. He will do it again. Put some respect on Russell Wilson's name, first of all. We're going to act like this dude was not playing at a Hall of Fame level in Seattle. We're going to act like this dude has not won Super Bowls before. You're going to act like Russell Wilson don't know what it takes, especially with a wide receiver like George Pickens out there. You're going to act like you got Freiermuth. You got a dude with a name like Freiermuth, and you don't think the Steelers are going to the Super Bowl? You got Mike Tomlin's always going to have the Steelers defense playing well. He always does. It doesn't matter who they have out there. He's going to have that steel curtain completely reinforced. He's going to have Russell Wilson playing at that Hall of Fame level that we have seen before, and he's going to have the Steelers once again, like they seemingly do all the time, hoisting that Lombardi trophy into the air because it's the Steelers. It's Mike Tomlin. It's that Tomlin magic. Baltimore Ravens. Let me tell you why the Ravens are going to get there, because Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, that combo in the backfield, who are you going to try to zero in on and tackle? If you all try to swarm on Derrick Henry, Lamar's just going to run it. If you all try to swarm on Lamar, Derrick's going to run you over. And then, again, John Harbaugh, one of the best coaches in the league. I mean, it's Andy Reid and then Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh as the next class. I mean, they are he is one of the best in the league. And like the Steelers, he's always got that Ravens defense playing out of their mind. And I know they lost Mike McDonald, but Harbaugh's going to fix it. He's going to have everything exactly where it needs to be. And he's going to have the Ravens with Lamar. Lamar was throwing the ball better last year than I've ever seen him throw it. And they got their taste. They got to the AFC title game and they had that heartbreak last year. They're not going to let it happen again. The Ravens go into the Super Bowl. Last but not least, to the AFC North, it is the Cleveland Browns. Let me tell you why the Cleveland Browns are going. The Cleveland Browns are going because Kevin Stefanski is a good coach. And Nick Chubb is going to come back eventually. And Nick Chubb is going to be out for blood after that miserable injury that he had last year. He's going to come back to remind everybody who he is. Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy, that's an underrated 1-2 punch at wide receiver. And Deshaun Watson, lest we forget, before everything hit the fan in Houston, Deshaun Watson was viewed as one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He's dealt with injuries. It's took him a little bit to get his bearings, but Deshaun Watson, with help from great coach Kevin Stefanski, he's gonna mean business. But what's going to carry this Browns team to the Super Bowl is the fact that they had the best defense in the league last year. Myles Garrett. You want to block Myles Garrett? Anybody out there want to block Myles Garrett? Let me tell you something. With Jim Schwartz kind of leading the way last year, the Cleveland Browns had the best defense. They had teams just absolutely having fits every week trying to block their defensive front. It ain't going to be no different this year. Defense still wins championships, and that's why the Browns are going to the Super Bowl this year. All right, 2 divisions left. The NFC South. Let me tell you why the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to the Super Bowl. They're going to the Super Bowl because, lest we forget, it's only been a few years since they won it. Mike Evans still there. He knows how to do this. Mike Evans is a freak. He's a freak. Chris Godwin is a freak. He's been there. These guys are going to be under more pressure to stay healthy. They're going to stay healthy. And Baker Mayfield, man, this guy's got the fire. This guy's got the fire. And last year, they beat the almighty Eagles in the playoffs. And then they hung in there with the Detroit Lions in the divisional round. The Bucs have proven not only can they get to the playoffs, but they can compete in the playoffs. They got a taste of it last year. This year, Baker Mayfield, that madman, he's going to get back in there with Mike Evans, and he's going to say, all right, they're sleeping on us, but they don't know. This team just won the Super Bowl a few years ago. You mean to tell me Baker Mayfield can't do in the playoffs what Tom Brady just did for Tampa Bay a few years ago? The oldest Tom Brady to ever win a Super Bowl. You tell me Baker Mayfield can't accomplish that same thing with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, those same guys who were there? Of course. And Tampa Bay always has a good defense too. So, I mean, and this is a bad division. The NFC South's a bad division. So the Bucs are going to beat up on everybody in their division, and then they're going to go to the Super Bowl. You know why the New Orleans Saints are going to the Super Bowl? The New Orleans Saints are going to the Super Bowl because Derek Carr is a Christian, and he's going to pray it into existence. He's gonna call on the name of the Lord, and he's gonna say, God, I'm doing your will. And we're called the Saints, for crying out loud. We got a Christian like Derek Carr at quarterback, and their name is the Saints? Come on, that's God's team. He's going to cause divine intervention to get this team to the Super Bowl. Obviously. Let me tell you why the Atlanta Falcons are going to go to the Super Bowl. They're the best team in that division by far. Kirk Cousins, he's the best quarterback in that division by far. This division's awful. And Kirk Cousins, that alone was a good enough pickup to hand Atlanta this division. But when they get to the playoffs. Let me tell you why they're going to go to the Super Bowl. Because they remember that 28-3 heartbreak, the city of Atlanta. They've been waiting to break that curse. And this is the year they're going to do it. Kirk Cousins is going to come in. He's going to get that monkey off his shoulder of not being able to win the big games. Bijan Robinson, one of the great young running backs in the league. You got Kyle Pitts, who's finally going to live up to being drafted. What was he, number 4 overall? He's finally going to live up to it. Drake London. Think about the moves they made on defense. Bringing in Judon, bringing in Justin Simmons at safety to kind of complete their defense. They're going to have a good secondary. They're going to have a quality defense. Their offensive line is really good. And Kirk Cousins is going to be the missing. All they needed was a quarterback, and now they've got it with Kirk Cousins. He's the cherry on top. They're going to be underrated going into the playoffs, but that's exactly where they want to be. The Falcons want to be that underdog. It's what they're going to be, and they're going to go to the Super Bowl because of it. Carolina Panthers. Let me tell you why the Carolina Panthers are going to go to the Super Bowl. Because Bryce Young was drafted number 1 overall, dang it. And that should mean something. He had a year to kind of warm up to it, but now he's going to come back in here. What's their head coach's name? Dave Canellis. They're going to come in here with Dave Canellis, one of the great young coaches in the league. They're going to come in with Dave Canellis. And Bryce Young, he's heard the rumors. He's heard the rumors that this Panthers team is not going to be too great, that he might have been a bust, and the Panthers should have took Stroud ahead of him. Let me tell you something. This guy's going to come out, and he's going to prove all the doubters wrong. He is going to bring out the best in Xavier Legette, who the Panthers traded in the first round to get. Adam Thielen. I mean, he is going... By the time Bryce Young gets done with the kind of year he's going to have, Panthers are going to be like, Cam Newton who? Jake Delhomme who? Bryce Young's our guy. Listen, he's drawn the comparisons to Drew Brees because of how short he is. He's going to be better than Drew Brees this year. Just mark my words. Bryce Young is going to prove why he was drafted number 1 overall, and he's going to take this team with one of the great young coaches in this league, Dave Canellis, and they're going to go to the Super Bowl. Now we go to the AFC South. This is going to be tough. Let me tell you why the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to go to the Super Bowl. God help me. They're going to go to the Super Bowl because Trevor Lawrence is just great. God help me. Trevor Lawrence is just a great quarterback. He's got beautiful hair. Just, I don't know if he uses Tresemme or what it is. It's just tremendous. He's, Christian Kirk and Gabe Davis are going to be a great... Evan Ingram is one of the best tight ends in the league. Doug Peterson. Hey, come on. I know I'm lying, but just deal with it. Okay, Doug Peterson has won a Super Bowl before, and so he knows what it takes. And so that means that Jacksonville is going to do it. They're going to do it. Let me tell you why the Houston Texans are going to win the Super Bowl. They're going to win the Super Bowl because C.J. Stroud, my goodness, what a great rookie year he had. DeMeco Ryans' first year coaching. Come on. What the future in Houston seems to be great with those two. Stephon Diggs coming in, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Joe Mixon, Dalton Schultz. The defensive additions they made, Daniil Hunter, Danico Autry. He's suspended the first 6 games, but he'll be back in time for the playoff push. And, the Texans, they've got the most sure thing at quarterback in the division, and then he's going to just be even better this year. And he's going to have the Texans in the Super Bowl. Let me tell you why the Indianapolis Colts... God help me. Let me tell you why the Colts are going to make it to the Super Bowl. They're going to make it there because Joe Flacco's the backup, and he's won a Super Bowl before. He knows what it takes, and inevitably he's probably going to have to play at some point. Their offensive line's usually good, and so they'll be able to protect Flacco. He's immobile, but he won't need to move around much because that offensive line will protect him. Michael Pittman's pretty good. Their secondary is very young, so they're going to have a lot of energy to chase guys down. The thing you got to respect about Indianapolis is they'll hang a banner no matter what they do. I mean, they'll hang a banner. If they go 5-12, they'll be like, "Hey, we 5-12. We'll hang a banner." Let me tell you why the Tennessee Titans are going to go to the Super Bowl. All right, let me tell you why the Tennessee Titans are going to go to the Super Bowl. They're going to go to the Super Bowl because look at all the additions that they made. I mean, Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd, Tony Pollard, shoring up that offensive line with J.C. Latham and Lloyd Cushenberry, and the improvements of guys that are being coached by Bill Callahan. DeAndre Hopkins is back, one of the great receivers of all time. Will Levis, there may be some growing pains, but he's got all those weapons around him. He's got Hellman's mayonnaise running through his veins, and he's gonna come out there, and he is going to be elevated by those guys. Defensively, the secondary is one of the best in the league. Brian Callahan has coached a team that went to the Super Bowl. He was offensive coordinator, so he knows how to get there, and they made all the right moves. It's a totally new team. They've had one of the worst rosters the last couple of years. They did a whole roster turnover in 1 year, and C.J. Stroud's going to have a sophomore slump. So he's not going to be as good as people thought. Trevor Lawrence is going to be inconsistent as always. Anthony Richardson, if he stays in, is going to be, who knows, because we don't even know. But, I mean, if judging by his Florida career as anything, he's probably going to leave a lot to be desired. And if Flacco has to get in there, he's old Joe. There's only one older Joe than him, and he's the president. So the Titans are just gonna do it. They're just gonna shock the world. The city of Nashville is behind them 100%. Jelly Roll gave him a motivational speech. So I mean, come on, what more do you need? And Will Levis is gonna prove he's that dude. He's gonna be the next Josh Allen, the next Joe Burrow, the next Peyton Manning, the next John Elway, the next Joe Montana, the next Tom Brady, the next Patrick Mahomes, rolled up into one, all at once. And so that's why the Titans are going to win the Super Bowl. And that's my case for all 32 teams. I have been rambling for 40 minutes about these 32 teams. Hope you enjoyed this. Make your case for your team in the comments below. Bye.